Wait. Try to balance it.
You're gonna knock it over.
I don't know how this fan isn't attached to
All right, we're going to play a game that we've never played before, and we're just going to see how it goes. This game is called, this is what it's called Dead Cat. Someone already said, I saw it. So what it means is this game, we're going to give you scenario. I think there's actually someone who describes it, but I don't really want to listen to his voice. So you are going to get 4 options. So it's going to ask you a question of like, oh gosh, I'm freezing. What type of haircut should you give your cat? And it's going to give you 4 options. And as we progress through the game, more and more options will kill the cat.
Cat in the world. Your cat needs a name. So what would you and your group like to name your cat?
This is kind of a practice round.
Fluffy. Snowball.
And you guys chat as a team.
Thaddeus the Third.
I'll ask for your answers. 2 seconds. Yeah, hold up if you're doing one. This one I will tell you. There's no one. This is what if you chose number.
Fluffy.
If you chose that name,
cat
great.
name. Your cat loves it, and I approve as well. Congratulations. Let's move on to round 2.
This is
ding. Your alarm clock is going off, and you realize that you haven't fed your cat. You look through your cabinets and your refrigerator, but you can't find cat food anywhere. What should you feed your cat? Should you feed your cat a sponge, raw bacon, Pop-Tarts, or a box of Staples?
All right, once you guys have your 1, 2, 3, or 4, answer kills your cat. Your cat is still alive. You guys got lucky.
Oh my, what is that awful smell? You look around and you realize that this terrible smell is coming from your cat. You should probably give him a bath. Now, how would you like to bathe your cat? Should you chuck it in the neighbor's pond, dunk it in a bucket of hand sanitizer, spray it with a bottle of Axe, or who cares? Bathing is for weaklings.
You all killed your cat.
Megan, if you guys have never met Megan, she is now the assistant director of both middle school and high school. So you guys will see her around. We're excited to have her. It's a good time. So she'll be around. If you guys did, she grew up. You went to Fairview. Oh yeah, Monarch. You went to Monarch. We got some Monarch representatives here. And then you went to Fishy and Club, both. So she's been around for a while. With that, let me pray real quick, and then we'll jump into this tonight, okay? Jesus, thank you again for all my friends here. Just be able to hang out, play 9 square, play ping pong, catch up on life, enjoy some decently nice weather, and just be together. And so we thank you for opportunities like this, and we just pray that whatever's been happening this week, will you allow us to be present here and hear maybe some things that you have to say to us tonight and some of the words that were prepared in this series we're going through. And so with that, pray in your name, amen. All right. So we have been doing this series called Tribes. First week, I'll walk through a little bit later, but we've been doing Tribes, all right? And essentially we chose this because tribes had to find a way to do life, and they had to figure out the best way to live because it was a life or death situation, right? Like if they didn't have the best way to survive winter, chances are they might not survive winter, right? And so I believe that Tribes has a really great way of showing us what community is all about. And when I look at this community, I think of, wow, we have to find the best way to live life. And I personally believe that the best way to live life is following Jesus. And I don't ask you to agree with me on that, but maybe you do. And so we're just going to dive into some of the things that Jesus says, hey, when you look at community, here are some things that you might want to look into or try to find, okay? And then tonight, I'm talking about tribes must protect one another. But I love that kind of what I call like a protection plan. Like how they have so many different pieces to that lifestyle, where they got people who are pathfinders, which you put in community scenarios, like that might be a leader, so to say, who's leading the community to a safer place or to what's next. You got people who are more injured or weaker or feeble on the inside, right? And then you have some of the stronger, more, what did they say? There were some other weak ones on the outside but still were able to keep a lookout, right? Like there was a system created to protect their weakest individuals in the middle, and a lot of the times that was around some of the younger ones, right? And so what I love about this system is that it's a great picture of community, because in my opinion, if we were to put that in terms of people, all those positions are interchangeable. You probably have been in all of those positions or will be at some point in time, where you might be a leader one moment and the next moment you need to be protected by those around you. And I might get into a little bit more details of what that might mean. But meaning, like, there might be a time where you find yourself quite vulnerable. Life is really hard and you need help. And it's your turn to sit in the middle. Then it might become your turn at some point in time to sit on the outside and protect those on the inside. It might be your time one time to lead people out of being inside of an area that's no longer safe, right? Like, community needs to protect people. And so I think one of the things that's really helpful in understanding, hey, what does it look like for me to help start protecting people? It doesn't mean you need to be strong. I'm not talking about physical protection, and I'll talk more about ways that might play out. So one of the things I think is really helpful is just learning how can you be aware of what that even means, right? Like, how can you start becoming aware of when others might need protecting, all right? In my experience with you all in the age range that you're in, you often experience it almost every day. Maybe not necessarily during the summer, but for sure during the school year. It's pretty easy, and most of you probably have found yourself here, where you might be in a group of friends or a group of people, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the conversation where they're making fun of someone else, or they're putting down someone, and maybe it's to their face, or maybe it's behind their back and they're not a part of the group. Chances are, my guess is you all have been there, and that is just one example of a lot. But when you are in that, there's a chance that you guys probably also, at one point in time or not, have felt uncomfortable because you maybe have picked up on that. And if not, there might be a time where it will come where you're like, hey, I'm recognizing that we're just saying things about this person that doesn't feel like that's normal to me, right? And so I think it's also helpful to understand some of those things of why people do that, right? Maybe you've heard that hurt people hurt other people. Honestly, when someone is saying that, or maybe yourself, there's often times where you're gaining a sense of value or gaining a sense of pride when putting someone else down. And that sense you're gaining is a false sense. It's not something that lasts, and often it comes at the expense of others. Once you know, hey, what I'm trying to get, that avenue isn't actually effective, you then start to become aware, hey, this isn't actually getting me to where I want to go, so then you start looking somewhere else, right? That's how you can start creating awareness. And this is just using one little scenario that you guys probably often see often. Sometimes I'll let you guys talk more about scenarios when we do some group time, but that's one area where, all right, now you know, hey, when we're just sitting there talking trash about someone, it's actually not getting us to where we want to go, even though it might feel that way. It might feel good to say something like that about others, right? That's a way of not protecting people in your community. And then you might be asking, well, okay, Matt, who do I protect? Like, do I really have to protect some of those people? Because I really would rather not. And I'm going to open up this story here. We're going to read this. Yeah, play videos twice. All right, here's a couple verses that Jesus talked about when asked a question about who is my neighbor. And Jesus said, there once was a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. Luckily, a priest was on his way down the same road, but when he saw him, he angled across to the other side. Then a religious man showed up. He also avoided the injured man. A Samaritan traveling the road came on him. When he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfecting and bandaging his wounds. Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him into an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, take good care of him. If it costs any more, put it on my bill. I'll pay you on my way back. Jesus then said, what do you think? Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by robbers? The one who treated him kindly, the religion scholar responded. And Jesus said, go and do the same. Now, maybe some of you guys have heard of this story. You've heard about the relationship between the Jewish people and the Samaritans. Long story short, they hated each other. They didn't get along whatsoever. Like, it would be like if we didn't talk to people who went to CSU and we were CU fans and people died between this feud. Like, that was how hostile their relationship was people killed each other because someone else was a Samaritan or someone else was a Jewish person. And so when you know that, this idea of, hey, who is my neighbor? Hey, maybe whose back do I need to protect sometimes? There's no caveat. We already talked about in week 1, hey, a good community is one that's unified and unified in our differences. And the way we do that is we learn to understand other people that we don't like and we don't get along with. And then the second time we talk about how do we love someone that we really don't like and we don't get along with. And then now we're asked to take another action step. And it's not just protecting our friends. How do we protect the person that actually is, like, in our opinion, the worst person in the world, right? That's what we're being asked of here. The Samaritan did the same to that Jewish man who was on the ground. He stopped and helped him, and then also paid more for him to also be taken care of after he left, right? Here's another easy way to be putting it. Is greater love has no one than this, not that, no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends. And we just answered who our friends are, who's my neighbor. It's not just the people we like. So this might look like, oftentimes, essentially easily put, it's putting others in front of yourself. All right? And not to a place where it puts you in harm or danger, but in a way that you're intentionally being like, hey, maybe we jump back to that scenario where people are talking trash about someone. Maybe being like, hey, we're ending this conversation here. Or if that person's there, you stand up for them and say something. Hey, we're not, guys, this isn't what we do. You come up with your own language, your own words. But again, that just helps answer who is our neighbor and what are we supposed to do with them. Here's one of just kind of an example, and I don't want to look like I'm a poster child for how to protect people. Like that's anything I don't want to be, is you guys looking at me and be like, Matt has it figured out. Like if you hang with me long enough, you'll know that's not the case. But I want to share one scenario where I was in a conversation with one of you just a couple weeks ago, and someone had said something that I picked up that was like, this conversation is no longer comfort for me. Like, I feel like in this moment, what this other adult is saying, it feels like I need to step in and have some sort of a protecting moment, right? Like, I felt there was something that needed to happen. And I didn't know exactly what to do. I felt uncomfortable, but I felt like I had to take action. And so I changed the conversation and gently, then in a way of crafting my words, was able to get that person out of this conversation. And then I thought more a little about it, and I came back to one of you and I said, hey, I'm sorry that conversation happened, because that wasn't okay. And I'll just apologize on behalf of someone else. And in my own roundabout way, when looking back on that conversation, I think one of my motivating things why is because I felt like I needed to protect someone in the moment, right? That I felt like someone, hey, this conversation needs to shift and change, and I'm the one that gets to be a part of that. Again, I don't want you to think that I always get it right. But that one little conversation where I picked up on an awareness was like, hey, something's off here. Let me do something about it. It made me then ask the question, all right, if all of us were to take this idea of how do we protect people and start to become aware about it, one of the first things I wrote was, I wonder if that just might help some of the suicide rates we're seeing drop. When people know, hey, I'm protected. Hey, I actually have one friend out there who stood up for me one time. I don't know if that's your story. That was mine for a little bit. Or maybe you are the person who got to stand up for one person, and now that person is like, they're one of my best friends. And you guys have never said any, like, more words than you would with one of your actual friends, right? You never know if just helping protect someone who got kicked out of their home, and you say, hey, come on over, stay the night with us, or let's go get food. I kind of keep going down this list of things that I wrote that I was just curious. If we thought about protecting some people, what might change in how we then do community with others, right? When we start seeing a need, hey, I can stand up for someone in this moment because down the road I'm going to need someone to stand up for me, all right? And some of this stuff might feel countercultural. And this phrase that I've been trying to take to heart with so many different things is this right here, which it says, you have been called to challenge the status quo. So this idea of evaluate the way that we treat others and ask, is this the best way to live life, or is there another way that's better? And it's not to do it in a challenging way where you're calling out people. It's just to ask yourself, I'm going to challenge my own status quo. Is the way that I've been treating people actually the best way to live life? And be honest with yourself. Or you can look at it at a countercultural or a cultural point. Hey, is the way that we as a people treat others, is that right? And the challenge in the status quo, you might land with no. And then you got to figure out what's a new way to do that. Get in circles, 3 of them. Pronto.